You have a birthday?
I know we have a lot of people
Yeah.
to greet tonight
How are
and
you?
time to spend together. And we do hope for
Yeah, I
you
knew
to be
you were
able
there.
to
How
do that
great.
after our session right
Also
now.
looks like you're doing some really
Because I
interesting.
also know there are some
interesting
here
things,
who
yeah,
will
it's
need
great.
to leave at a certain
Yeah.
time, and we want to make
You
sure
were
that we
so
give
kind
our
in what you said about what that was the
speaker
most awful
all
webinar I have
of
ever
the
done
time that
because there
we're
were no
looking for.
lights in the place where I was saying I couldn't get any place where there were any light. It was terrible.
But what you said, the gem, your mind
Okay, don't make me start calling
so
out
good to see
names,
you.
Barbara.
I'm Dave Reeder.
Hi,
Nice to
Dave.
meet you.
It's very nice to meet you too.
Thank you. And I do apologize for
Yeah,
having
and
to
Dave,
rush us along.
I've known your
But
name
somebody
forever,
else
so
said
it's
it.
very
They
nice.
said, you know, Maryknoll Lay Missioners, you can't just expect them to come and be on time. I'm like, oh, okay then. So welcome this evening. It has been a wonderful day so far. Thank you all for your good energy. Our prayers are still, I think, very much bringing the Spirit in our midst. And so without further ado, I do want to introduce someone who probably needs very little introduction for most of you. But Marie Dennis is well known for many reasons to Maryknoll, not the least of which for us lay missioners. She's on the board of Maryknoll Lay Missioners. She has, of course, also been on staff and actually, I believe, one of the founding individuals for the Maryknoll Office of Global Concerns as well. But even before that, she's been very involved with different movements that continue to affect and instruct and inspire us. So she's currently the Senior Program Director of Pax Christi International, the Catholic Nonviolence Initiative. She was a member of the Pax Christi International Board from 1999 to 2019 and co-president from 2007 to 2019. She is a Pax Christi USA Ambassador of Peace and was named a Pax Christi USA Teacher of Peace in 2022. She holds a master's degree in moral theology from Washington Theological Union, an honorary doctorate from Trinity Washington University and Alberina University, am I saying that correct? She is a secular Franciscan, author and co-author of several books, 7, and she is editor of Choosing Peace, The Catholic Church Returns to Gospel Nonviolence. I could go on, as with our previous speakers from last night, the credentials, the experience, and the wisdom that she brings to us would be hard to capture with all of the things that we could say about her. But I do need to mention one more because I know that she is a mother and has a family that I understand how, I'm not understanding how she has, you know, the, the life and story that she has and is able to, oh, sorry, I thought that was mine. Yeah. She is continuing to live in the Assisi community since 1987. She has lived and worked on a 65-acre organic farm in Virginia. So many beautiful things to bring to us this evening. Welcome, Marie.
Thanks, Cinderella. Thank you. Thank you, Elvira. And it is such a gift to be here. Really, it fills me with joy and also terror to try to say something to you. I hope that for the last, 24 hours, just hearing your stories, hearing again the experience that you have, this entire room, every one of you, literally fills me with hope and also challenges me to try to make any sense of what I'm going to say to you now. So we will have some time when I finish for your comments or questions. Please think about what you want to say or add or ask. These days, our most ordinary question, how are you, almost always elicits a qualified response. Under the circumstances, I'm ... And we all know exactly what those circumstances are, beginning with the violence and deep suffering we see around the world. Massive displacement, destruction and preventable hunger, even starvation in Gaza, heartbreaking sexual violence as a weapon of war in Sudan, Ukraine littered with landmines, Europe turning from social programs to rearmament, unrelenting repression of migrants everywhere, bullying and retribution driving US foreign and domestic policy, unprecedented threats to the rule of law, the ascendancy of authoritarianism around the world, the dismantling of small steps toward racial justice and inclusion, and on and on. The democratic backsliding in this country is blatant and frightening, though it is not new to people of color, even here. And the disorder, as you know well, is not confined to the United States. Those of you who live or lived in El Salvador or Nicaragua, South Sudan or the Philippines, Zimbabwe or Myanmar, and in many other countries, know that there is a fragile line between hope and despair, between repression and liberation, between what John Civilon last night called the demonic narrative and stories of life or light. Over the past 50 years, we've experienced eras of horrific violence and times of hopeful breakthroughs. Sometimes the good endured in Chile, sometimes not in South Africa. Often hope and horror went back and forth in Guatemala or Brazil. I am thinking in particular of what is called the third democratic wave during the 1980s, in which, according to historian Samuel Huntington, the Catholic Church played a major role in democratic openings. Think of Poland and the Philippines and Chile, many other stories. That shift in so many countries around the world, from dictatorship to democracy, was a welcome surprise that itself led to the surprising end of the Cold War. Now, 25 years later, it's hard to remember that the Cold War ended, or did it? We never did see the promised peace dividend. Hope and despair, despair and hope, back and forth, back and forth. Maryknoll Missioners have lived through so many of those roller coaster times. You have all lived with plenty of disorder. But I was asked to speak tonight about hope, claiming hope in times of disorder and despair, and I am really happy to do so. I find myself constantly scanning the horizon, looking for hope. I'm sure you do the same. It's almost never in the headlines and rarely in the big stories. Though I hope there will be a breakthrough soon, I tend to think, for example, that perhaps Gaza and Palestine is beyond a hopeful breakthrough. Until I listen to Palestinians and their allies, many of whom are Jewish, describe their powerful nonviolent practice of sumud, steadfastness, staying put, refusing to be displaced again, or the truly amazing dedication to education and research that continues even in Gaza. a young Palestinian friend who teaches at Birzeit University in Ramallah, shared just the other day about the brilliant proposals for research that she is receiving from graduate students and professors in Gaza who are hoping that their project will qualify for a grant. Imagine research in Gaza. That is exactly where hope dwells, in the spaces where we all live every day, and even more, in the spaces where it seems impossible to live, yet somehow courageous people do, and you all know them. Hope. Sometimes in those ordinary spaces, hope is brilliant and visible. A few examples. You remember, I'm sure, Bishop Marianne Buddy, who spoke truth to power so clearly a few months ago, asking the newly inaugurated President Trump to have compassion. In the name of God, she said, I ask you to have mercy on the people in your country who are scared now. Millions have put their trust in you, she said. Millions are also on the streets in another sign of hope. No King's Day on June 16th was one of the largest single days of protest in the United States ever. They estimate that 5 million people participated in 2,150 actions in every state and the District of Columbia, and they did not stop there. For example, on July 16th, 130,000 people participated in what was probably the largest online nonviolence training in US history. 130,000 people signed up to try to understand, how do we stop this without violence? And 1,600 Good Trouble demonstrations the day after that took place across the country in memory of John Lewis. Plus, you know about Moral Mondays and Pentagon Witness and Women's Resistance and Sisters Speak Out, and now Free DC, and many, many more. And there are other very different signs of hope. We know them as well. For example, from the Philippines to Mexico, from Honduras to the DR Congo, from Brazil to Canada and beyond, popular movements, Pope Francis called them social poets, are organizing nonviolent campaigns to protect their water, their forests, their land, you know that. It is not safe work. Too many water and land protectors, from Chico Mendes and Dorothy Stang to Berta Cáceres and Juan Lopez, have been killed or arrested, but their important work is driven by hope. As is another well-known, very contemporary example, students, including Palestinian students, Jewish students, and their allies, are still engaged in thoughtful, repeated, and courageous nonviolent actions to try to stop, or at least stop support for, the genocidal killing in Gaza. They are risking arrest, expulsion from their universities, deportation, and they are building strong communities of support for each other and for those who are doxxed or detained or deported. Yes, sometimes hope is front and center. At other times, it is a little less public, but still very strong. For example, a major international research collaborative called Creating Safer Space, some of you may know it, is contributing to a deeper understanding of whether and how unarmed civilian protection and accompaniment is effective in contexts of violent conflict to protect those who need protection. There are at least 60 known groups practicing unarmed civilian protection, UCP, and hundreds of unarmed accompaniers are being trained regularly through these and other organizations to be a protective presence in Palestine, South Sudan, Myanmar, the Philippines, Colombia, Guatemala, Honduras, Indonesia, Kenya, Mexico, Nepal, and more. And most of those who are doing the accompaniment are local, indigenous, local communities who are learning how to practice nonviolent protection in their own community. Another less public but very important sign of hope that the Wozniaks know very well are the little red Know Your Rights cards that have been distributed everywhere across the United States. I'm sure you've been distributed them or you've seen them by the amazing local coalitions that came together on the border and in every city or town to which migrants were being bused in the last year and a half or so, making sure that the migrants, wherever they ended up, were welcome in the middle of the night or whenever they arrived, had places to stay, were connected to local services, and had access to legal support. And certainly in the Washington, D.C. area, and I'm sure across the country, those coalitions are still active, still providing the kind of immediate protection that people need on a daily basis. And then there's San Diego Bishop Michael Thom, standing up for migrants at immigration court, fabulous. And Nobel laureate Mairead Maguire, fasting to make the starvation in Gaza more visible. All kinds of lights, signs of hope. For me, hope is almost always in community, especially in the community of communities that stretches across this country and around the world. You know it well because you are all a part of it. This community of communities is an incredible force for good and for hope. Again, a few very different examples came to my mind. For example, hope is participating in the economy of Francesco, a worldwide community of young, I think under 35 years, entrepreneurs, researchers, and economists who are building a more just and sustainable future every day. The economy of Francesco was started in 2022 by Pope Francis, who called it an economy of friendship with the earth and an economy of peace. On the other hand, hope is also a few people creating a series of webinar conversations on the intersection of nonviolence and the arts for students in Catholic universities across this country. Believing that the world will be saved by beauty, they are exploring nonviolence and the visual arts, music, film, theater, poetry, and dance. That series will be shown this fall, and I am really looking forward to seeing it. Overall, this community of communities, our community, is engaged in brilliant work to root out racism, to end the death penalty, to redress centuries of oppression against indigenous communities, to break habits of exploitation that are destroying the earth, to learn and promote restorative justice practices, to rid the world of nuclear weapons, to promote respect for the rights of all people, believing that radical inclusion is the foundational message of the Sermon on the Mount. Just listening to your stories in these few days again makes it clear to me that you could add hundreds of examples of hope to my really short list. However, the level of disorder and the depth of despair that we humans are facing right now points to the need for what Kazu Haga, author of Fierce Vulnerability, calls, quote, a fundamental transformation of society and everything we think we know about what it means to be human. It's about changing how we, as a species, relate to each other and to the rest of the cosmos. Our work, Kazu says, is about healing, about belonging, about wholeness. I want to highlight two directions in which we humans are heading that I think of as transformational signs of hope and could, I think, move us in the right direction if we stay moving that way. Cosmic consciousness, John talked about that so beautifully last night, and nonviolence, a commitment that Maryknoll Lay Missioners have miraculously made over the last few years and are teaching the world how to do that. So just a few words on both of those. Franciscan Sister Pat Farrell several years ago said, the world is outgrowing the dualistic constructs of superior, inferior, win, lose, good, bad, domination, submission. Breaking through in their place, she said, are equality, communion, collaboration, synchronicity, expansiveness, abundance, wholeness, mutuality, intuitive knowing, and love. I love that quote from Pat Farrell. It was several years ago, but it's such a beautiful thing to imagine. We humans are opening our eyes, literally. We are beginning to shift from dominating and extracting to reciprocity, living with, and respecting. Michael Nagler, founder of the Meta Center for Nonviolence in California, you may know some of his writing, and the author of The Third Harmony, says the same thing in a different way. We are in the throes of a paradigm shift from an old story of materialism and separateness in which competition and violence are inevitable to a new story, drawing on both new scientific understandings and ancient wisdom traditions that value nonviolence. In this new story, we can see again that we are deeply connected to one another and to the natural world, and that the kind of nonviolent and just society that Martin Luther King called the beloved community is not just desirable, but possible. Over the past few years, I have come to believe that we humans are ready to create and move into this new paradigm, a new way of being, a new logic for life. What we are birthing will be closer to the beloved community. It will be anti-racist and socially just. It will be built on right relationships with each other and with the natural world. It will be richly, beautifully diverse, and decidedly nonviolent. It will not depend on weapons of war, but on right relationships, a commitment to inclusive human dignity and respect for the integrity of creation. And that is where I find the deepest hope. Cosmic consciousness and nonviolence together. On December 25th, 2021, you may remember, scientists launched the James Webb Space Telescope, a massive instrument that is able to peer back farther than ever into the cosmos. We saw some of those beautiful pictures in John Civilon's slides last night, revealing new information about our early universe and indirectly observing evidence of dark matter. With the advent of modern technological expertise, from the Hubble and Webb telescopes to micro and nano technologies, we are being exposed to mind-boggling information and breathtakingly beautiful photos of what is happening under our very feet and at tremendous distances beyond our imaginations in outer space. Again, John described that so beautifully, so powerfully last night. Human beings are engaged in a sacred journey of discovery in a universe with stunning depth and richness of purpose, to use the beautiful imagery of Dwayne Elgin. We are facing a complete transformation in our understanding of humans' place in creation. Maryknollers know this very well. Cosmic consciousness is affecting who we are, how we live, everything we do. We're learning to live with and respect the whole Earth community, at least we're trying, and the cosmos. The seeds of deep transformation are planted, and if we humans are going to survive on this planet, they have to be carefully tended. Miraculously, some of the rest of us are beginning to experience what most Indigenous peoples have always known about our relationships with each other and with the natural world, and about our communion within Earth community. In her lovely little book, The Serviceberry, which some of you may have read, Indigenous botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer urges us to learn about interconnectedness and gratitude from the natural world. She says, quote, "The practice of observing the living world and taking inspiration for human ways of living from its model is an essential element of Indigenous science. The natural world demonstrates a model based on abundance and enoughness, gratitude and reciprocity, rather than on accumulation." Again, as John said, we are increasingly aware that our lives, our very beings, are intrinsically interconnected with the rest of creation, with the entire cosmos. This is a tremendous sign of hope. As Robin Wall Kimmerer suggested, we are learning also that diversity and relationality, which are embedded in the cosmos and essential to survival on this planet, are also essential to flourishing human societies. I know that Ilia Delio is a great friend of Maryknoll. I love the way Ilia talks about the new person emerging in evolution, who is embracing diversity, who is called into a new type of consciousness where things are first seen together and then as distinct within this togetherness. That took me some thought to really absorb what that meant. First seen together and then as distinct in that togetherness. Like Michael Nagler and Pat Farrell, she says, we are beginning to see that systems in nature do not work on principles of competition and struggle, but on cooperation and sympathy. We have entered a new axial age of consciousness, one that is communal, ecological, cosmic, informational, interbeing, part of a dynamic whole where deep interconnectedness marks our lives. I was thinking more about this today and was struck by the powerful invitation of the Holy Spirit to be both mystics and prophets. At the same time, we know in our souls that the quagmire of violence in which we are wallowing is a dead end, literally. We desperately need a new stage on which to continue enacting our stories, a nonviolent paradigm in which to dwell in peace and unafraid. That humans are increasingly attracted to nonviolence is another great source of hope. This nonviolence that attracts us is a spirituality and a way of life. It is also a set of very powerful practices for negotiating conflict, untying the knots of systemic violence, promoting right relationships among humans, and right relationships with the whole Earth community. Nonviolence is a beautiful, powerful, fitting companion to cosmic consciousness. Nonviolence is much more than a political strategy. It is a spirituality through which we see and interpret life, a set of virtues and principles for personal and social transformation, part of that new paradigm that is replacing the old paradigm of destructive competition, domination, and accumulation, replacing, if you will, the demonic. Nonviolence is personal, interpersonal, social, structural, and ecological. It is essential to a future that is marked by deep relationality. Nonviolence defines who we are, our goals or visions for the future, and how we will bring those dreams into practice, into reality. Who we are, what we are seeking, the new creation, if you will, and how we will get there. Michael Nagler writes, violence is a tendency that pulls us back away from the recognition of unity. Nonviolence pulls us forward toward the recognition of unity. Nonviolence is connected with higher consciousness or love. Nonviolent behavior is central to who we humans are. Nonviolence is not only at home in this new story of unity. Michael Nagler says, nonviolence is the new story and the way to get there. I see the fundamental transformation of society that Kazu Haga described happening everywhere, in all the specific signs of hope that I mentioned, and in so many, many more. We know now that nonviolent strategies are effective, and we are working to realize a societal transformation that is slow, but deep and powerful. It is also threatening. And the stronger it is, the more effective it is, the more ferocious and powerful will be the backlash. Our work is not done, and I'm afraid it won't be for a long time. This claim on hope is a multi-generational effort. At the same time, in the past 10 years, we have seen clear evidence that nonviolence is moving to the center of Catholic teaching, including, but not only, Catholic teaching on war and peace. There is a growing recognition that nonviolence was central to the life and teaching of Jesus, and the lessons of the Sermon on the Mount, as challenging as they are, have to be integrated into the contribution of the Catholic Church in the public square. What does it mean to love your enemy? How do we practice that? This openness to nonviolence in the institutional Catholic Church, I think, is another tremendous sign of hope. Last week in Japan, for the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Cardinal McElroy said, "The continuation of wars among nations and within societies has pointed to the need to fundamentally renew and prioritize the claim of nonviolent action as the primary framework for Catholic teaching on war and peace." On Monday this past week, I listened to a phenomenal webinar conversation among theologians and social scientists from different universities who are exploring the practical ramifications of a deeper church-wide understanding of and commitment to gospel nonviolence, of moving nonviolence to the center of Catholic teaching on violence. That similar discussions are taking place regularly in conferences and webinars and through scholarly journals is new and important, particularly because the conversations demonstrate a very well-developed and developing understanding of nonviolence and a sincere search for an ethical framework that can help the world navigate dangers and complexity. Pope Leo said recently, nonviolence as a method and a style must distinguish our decisions, our relationships, and our actions. That's from a church that maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago, if you brought up the word nonviolence, you would get a pat on the head and told, well, that's really nice, but it's much too idealistic to take it seriously. It's just not happening anymore. And it's a debate a discussion that is really way beyond the conversation between the just war tradition and pacifism. It's much deeper and richer and wider than that. The Catholic Church, I believe, could make a huge contribution to peace. Peace in our homes and our neighborhoods, in local communities and villages, between different cultures and ethnic groups and political parties, among nations, and in our broken world by actually forming 1.4 billion Catholics in the spirituality of nonviolence, and by teaching the practical nonviolent skills such as nonviolent communication, violence de-escalation, and conflict transformation through all Catholic structures and institutions. Think about universities, parishes, religious communities, seminaries, and on and on. Maryknoll Lay Missioners, and I just have to celebrate Maryknoll Lay Missioners because you are showing the church how to do that. Your work on nonviolence that is growing, you're figuring out how to do it, you've struggled through the complexities of, well, what do you mean we're going to focus on nonviolence? The work that you're doing is making a huge difference and will make a huge difference around the world. It's just a sort of wonderful witness to the potential for a real shift toward nonviolence. Nonviolence is a powerful force that unites without destroying, an essential dimension of the beloved community. What Ugandan theologian Emmanuel Katongole calls a spirituality that reflects the very nature of God, and is thus, I believe, at the heart of mission. We are resurrection people. That finally is the basis of our hope. As Jesus moved toward Jerusalem, deliberately engaging the powers and principalities of first century Palestine, he also was building the beloved community, shoring them up, if you will, in spite of themselves, to nurture the seeds of life and hope even after he was gone. Fear and hatred stalked him all the way, until finally betrayal, abandonment, torture, death, evil prevailed. But death did not have the last word. 2,000 years later, we stand in awe before the fact of the resurrection and the hope it carries. We have to keep telling that story of hope to see how Jesus' friends and followers tried to live it out. Just as they struggled to understand what it meant that he overcame evil, that he shifted the axis on which the world known to them was spinning, that he pointed their lives in a radically different direction, so must we. I believe that the intense cultural and political divisions we are now experiencing, including in the United States, are a fear-driven reaction to the profound transformational change that is underway. Our growing awareness that we are part of a cosmic whole and our embrace of nonviolence as the defining characteristic of our relationships with each other and with all of creation, it seems to me make possible, absolutely necessary, to keep on claiming hope, even in times of disorder and despair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So your additions, your comments, your questions, your disagreements. Oh, great. Thank you. Would be great. Please. Sure. Sure.
One thing that I wanted to add was the hope in South Korea.
Yes.
And just noticing that 6
Yeah.
months ago, the president declared martial law.
Yeah.
And the people nonviolently
Yeah.
just, you know.
It's a great
and
example. It really is.
changed.
Yeah.
And of course, they're still in the process. And when I talk to people in Korea,
Yeah.
you know, they're still frustrated and difficult because two sides can't talk to each other. They haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
I guess. And so I just mentioned that as a great thing of hope.
Yeah.
And realizing there's still always lots to do, even when you see the political things change.
Yeah. Thank you. It's really a beautiful example. Thank you so much, Russ. Yeah.
Coming from the Sudan, which is really a basket case right now.
Yeah.
It's been a basket case for a long time. But I've always been amazed by the numbers of children. They're always giving birth to children. And for me, I think that's a sign of hope.
Yeah. That's a beautiful example, Tom.
I'm a war tax resistor, and that's somebody who doesn't pay some or all of the federal taxes because of the large part of our discretionary budget that goes towards killing. And for decades, I have thought, this war will build resistance. And I was wrong. But this war in Gaza has brought thousands of new war tax resistors into this nonviolent movement. Young people. We're not all gray-haired people anymore. It's so exciting.
Yeah. Very true.
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about fear-driven reaction, because particularly in relationship to immigrants, that we're living at a level just mind-boggling, and just how you see that as perhaps a fear-driven reaction.
I don't know if you can hear me if I don't use the microphones better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know, it's my way of thinking about it, but it seems to me that part of what's happening is that when I think about fear, I think about a fear that has been orchestrated in many ways that leads people who have perceived themselves to be to have a place in society or to be in some kind of a privileged or sort of to know where they stand, to be afraid of change and to be afraid of anyone who is other. And I feel like the rhetoric in our society, and it's around the world in many places as well, it has us convinced that anybody who speaks a different language, comes from a different place, has different color skin, is somehow to be feared. And the rhetoric in this society right now is saying that, is clearly saying that. So to me, it's not real fear. I think it's orchestrated fear. And one of the challenges is breaking in to get to know each other. And so, you know, to the extent that people actually get to know immigrants in the neighborhood, sometimes it begins to be harder to think of them as somebody to be afraid of or the enemy. But a big challenge, I think a huge challenge that we have right now is with truth. It seems as though anybody can say anything and there is no accountability. And we have to figure out how to deal with that, because there are real things, there are real people that we might be afraid of in the world. But where fear is right now is really unreasonable. I think I started thinking about fear, yes, in relation to the way immigrants are being described. But before that, when it began to be clear, and 2019, 18, when the Black Lives Matter sort of uprisings were happening, and the conversation, and before that as well, began to make it clear that, for example, racism in the society is structural, systemic. It's not just prejudice. You know, I'm prejudiced, you're prejudiced. It's deep. And I think that that provoked a reaction of fear that is irrational, but it was true. I mean, it's part of a pattern of from the time we supposedly ended slavery in this country. We have repeatedly tried, as there's been a beginning of a breakthrough toward equality, there's a kind of panicked reaction. And I just feel like this whole thing that we're seeing is tied to that in some way, not just around racism, but around almost all of the sort of either or ways of looking at life. For example, that Sister Patty Farrell was expressing, it's like, we don't like to move to a place that's unfamiliar. when we don't know what it is. And I feel like we are moving to places that are unfamiliar. I'll give you an example. This is a ridiculous example. The end of June this year, Washington, D.C. changed every bus route in the city and renamed all the buses. I was completely freaked out for about a week. I thought, the ground just shifted. I don't know where I'm going to stand. I don't even take the bus that often. I usually take the metro. But there is something about change when it feels like we're standing on something solid and it gets changed that causes humans to panic. And I think there's just some of that. And then just disinformation. Other.
Thank you. My wife and I have been members of the Indivisible movement for many years, going back to 2017 at the Women's March. And I'd like to know what your comments are about what's happening on the left of the United States, specifically the Democratic Party. Do you have any? Yeah.
I don't think I have an intelligent comment on that. I really, you know as well as I do what's happening. I think, I guess my hope is that as we develop our organizing skills and we kind of build our movements through Indivisible and many other groups, that we will learn skills in nonviolent communication, and we will figure out how to look at where is the real change that's needed in our society to make sure that we live in a society that is just, and that where we build past the conflict. And I just think that's really hard, and we're not even close to that yet, including in either of the political parties. Are there individuals, politicians, other leaders? Yes, of course. They're brilliant. Sometimes I agree with their policies that they're proposing, and sometimes I don't. But I feel like what we need is honest conversation and places where we can have it. There are many local communities that are trying to do that. Indivisible may well be one of them, but I think there are serious efforts at conversations across difference in local communities. Everything from invite someone you don't agree with to dinner, to parish-based orchestrated and facilitated conversations. I think we need to move in that direction. I'm not sure where the Democratic Party is going to go. Sorry. Anything else? Good. I think, yes, one more. Don't want to keep it too late.
As usual, Marie, this is great. But I want to share with you our experience of like the cosmic connectedness.
Yeah.
In the work that we're doing, I keep saying how interfaith it is, but what's amazing is that so many of these faith centers that have been siloed on Sunday mornings are all coming together thanks to migrants.
Yeah, yeah.
And in our work it's sponsored by the Catholic parishes of Oak Park because we happen to have this school. There's many different faith centers helping. But I remember in particular talking to the pastor of Calvary Church, which is very conservative, but they were housing 12 migrant men. And I said, we should talk together. We should get together. We should, let's see what we can share resources. And he said, we don't usually trust Catholics. And then he came over to see us.
That's great.
And this is over and over and over again. Yeah. I was sharing with some people that recently, tragically, we had one of the a migrant from Guatemala who received services from us and then came back as a volunteer to help us, was killed in a car accident. So we had a service for him in our church, But he and his partner had also been going to an Episcopalian church because it was across the street from the shelter when they arrived and had a rainbow flag on the outside, so they felt welcome. And so I talked to our pastor and I said, "If we meet at the Episcopalian church, the priest could be part of this as a woman." And he said, "Oh, sure." I said, "Okay, your decision. You decided at what level." Well, she was up on the altar and she read the gospel and she gave a homily, you know. And she did kind of step back a lot, but then come on.
That's
it
nice.
was so
That's
wonderful.
That's great.
And the migrants are the ones who are bringing us together. Anyway, I just had to share.
That's beautiful, Sally. Thank you.
Yes, our venue being Maryknoll at this time, and with the theme of hope, reflecting on those together a little bit. A couple of things that came to mind. I haven't been here this time very long, but I think maybe even long enough to have noticed the personnel of all kinds around this building. Someone talked about some reference to skin color. I think we have the range from really white and all the browns and to really black in this house. And all of those people who are working here, they work together very well. How much is going on out of sight or unnoticeable? I can't say they're unnoticeable, but I think that people have a marvelous sense of cooperation with each other. And someone Filipino extraction, he replaces someone of American, African American, and that kind of, especially with 3 shifts, we cover, there are a lot of people having an influence on each other. So that was one thing that occurred to me. The other one is the actual composition of our Maryknoll Society. Some has appeared in Maryknoll Magazine and other publications. I don't know how much everybody has exposure to those, but we have a definite change. I mean, it's clear in the personnel, the new men that are coming along to join. This is fathers and brothers I'm talking about. A big variety. We haven't gotten into the African Americans yet, and I have to admit that. But they are a very small percentage, of course, of our American Catholics. But we have new men applying and being in the formation process from Asia. The most, I think, right now are from Africa. Probably somebody from Latin America. I can't go too far, or I'll be sure to be omitting people. But I think you get the notion. And these men are coming along, and how often I've heard the remark of our more veteran members of Maryknoll saying, "Boy, they're great young people. These are fine young men who are interested. Hope, for sure. Bringing a lot of hope to Maryknoll."
Maybe just
One more.
one or two more.
Yeah.
Hi, Marie, that was great. The thing I want to ask you is, or it's like, I don't know if it's common, but I was extremely depressed when Pope Francis went to heaven. I thought he was a man of hope, visionary, wonderful. But then, weeks later, I work in a children's hospital locally, and I was in my palliative care meeting. And somebody on the team at the end of the meeting says, "There's white smoke." I said, "Oh God, who am I going to go? Who am I going to go to that has a TV that I can watch?" So I went to one of our patients who They were here like 9 months. And when I found out that it was an American, I said, oh my God, I hope he's not from New York. But when I found out it was this gentleman who is now Pope Leo. So I want you to talk about the hope for the Catholic Church with the leadership. I said, if there's anybody that might be able to face up to the man that's in D.C., he might. But I thought that was such a sign of hope, and I did not ever expect that, which I don't think any of us. I didn't think it was an American, but a missionary in Peru, and a man of multiple backgrounds as far as his heritage is concerned. Can you address that a little bit?
Sure, I can say just a little bit, and I'm sure you all could add a lot more. And then I'm going to just give you an assignment for tonight. But so yeah, exactly the same experience. Pope Francis was extraordinary, and so I've been working for the last 10 years on a project called the Catholic Nonviolence Initiative. And through all those years, we started it because Pope Francis was elected and it looked like maybe he would be interested. And the whole point of it is to move nonviolence to the center of Catholic teaching, period, as the Beatitudes. So we were also, I mean, Pope Francis was phenomenal. He had a really interesting instinct for symbolic action that heightened the possibility of nonviolence in many different circumstances. Really, I mean, for me, his kissing the feet of the South Sudanese leaders was wow. I mean, was it magic? No, it's not magic, but he was extraordinary. So when Pope Leo was elected, it was, we were also wondering what was next. The first words that he said were about peace. He has spoken clearly about nonviolence, not only nonviolence as a kind of nice thing to do or something that's very interpersonal, but about the need to build structures that promote nonviolence, that help us deal with nonviolence. His experience is pretty phenomenal, as you said. I mean, that he was born in the US, that he lived in Peru for so long. I even love his, that he is a mathematician. I think that's fascinating. I love that because I'm a physicist, so, we are very hopeful about it. And we actually have an audience with him in October, so we can tell him what we've been doing with the Catholic Institute for Nonviolence. What will come of it, we have no idea. But the fact that he has engaged so seriously in what's happening in the world and seems to be, in his own way, continuing the linea of Pope Francis, I think, in just about every way, but with his own style. I mean, I think it was fascinating that he decided to live in the papal apartments. It's like, that's interesting. But I liked it because I feel like I think, he's clearly his own person, and that's important. So for the Catholic Nonviolence Initiative and the Institute, we are very hopeful, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, we can talk about this in between the cracks, but I'm sure you all have your opinion. So my assignment for you is this is a really easy assignment, is to tonight just think about a little bit about what gives you hope. What is it in your experience, perhaps in mission, perhaps here, wherever you are in mission, what is it, who is it that gives you hope? And how does it connect to the need that we have as a human community, as a global family, to find a new way of relating to each other and to the planet? So think about hope. Thank you. Oh, thank
I
you.
didn't put it under the cabinet tonight.
Thank you.
Again, our thanks is going to overflow because you always give much more than, we ask her for a lot and she always says yes. So that's the first thing. But
Thank
the
you.
challenge that you have given us tonight for Maryknoll Lay Missioners, I know is strong and direct.
Yeah.
But so is the hope and the encouragement. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
And so, I believe that Liz Mock, first before that, I do have a quick announcement. That has an announcement. Excuse me, Anne has an announcement.
Thank you. I just want to tell everyone the exciting news that our silent auction is now open. And so thanks to all of you who donated items. This is just a little celebration of all the beauty that we've all encountered, people have encountered in their time in mission, and also some creativity that that some of our returned missioners have shown in their lives since coming back from mission as well. So it's the room just right across the hall here. There's tables up against the wall and the items are out, and there's bid sheets. So you can go and just with a pen bid on the items you are interested in, and it will be open from now until tomorrow evening at the reception. And then we'll remind you, before we close it, so you can keep bidding and then please support KLM, of course, but also please share the stories. Each item says who donated it, so if you want to know more about the item, there's a little bit about each item, but if you want to know more, go find that person and ask them, because there's some really interesting and beautiful things that have lovely stories behind them as well. So this is not just a fundraiser, but a celebration of the beauty that's, of course, part of the hope. And I definitely am one of those who believe the world will be saved by beauty. So we invite you to bid. Thank you. Thank you.
And we want this evening to please continue your conversation, your time together. Thank you for those who have come for just the evening tonight. I'm so pleased to see our friends over from the sisters, and of course here the society. Thank you so much and welcome, and our other guests that have come in as well. I do believe that Jennifer and Liz, though, have something just final to add.
We just have a little game planned. After you get your refreshments and talk a little bit, wander back into the room, because we're gonna have a little bit of fun. So take a little time, get some stuff, and come back in.
If you are so inclined.
If you're inclined.
Thank you.